Olivia tucked a wayward strand of chestnut hair behind her ear as she hurried down the bustling university corridor. At 22, she was in her final year of her English literature degree, her mind swirling with thoughts of upcoming exams and the daunting prospect of post-graduation life. She rounded the corner, nearly colliding with a tall figure emerging from the faculty office. "Oh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't looking where I..." Olivia's apology caught in her throat as she looked up into a pair of startlingly blue eyes. The man she'd almost run into smiled warmly, crow's feet crinkling at the corners of those mesmerizing eyes. "No harm done," he said, his voice a rich baritone that sent an unexpected shiver down Olivia's spine. "Though I'd advise watching your step in the future, miss." Olivia Chun," she supplied, finding her voice. "And you are?" "Professor James Callahan," he replied, extending a hand. "I'm new to the English department this semester." Olivia shook his hand, acutely aware of the strength in his grip and the warmth of his skin. She guessed him to be in his late 40s, his salt and pepper hair and beard giving him a distinguished air that she found inexplicably attractive. "It's nice to meet you, Professor Callahan," Olivia said, hoping the flush she felt creeping up her neck wasn't visible. "I should get going. I have a class to get to." James nodded, his eyes lingering on her face for a moment longer than strictly necessary. "Of course. I look forward to seeing you around campus, Olivia." As she hurried away, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just occurred. She tried to push thoughts of the handsome professor out of her mind, but found herself stealing glances at him whenever their paths crossed on campus over the next few weeks. It wasn't until a month later that Olivia found herself in Professor Callahan's office, seeking advice on her thesis project. She knocked tentatively on the open door, her heart racing as James looked up from his desk and smiled. "Olivia, come in," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "What can I help you with?" Olivia settled into the chair, pulling out her notebook. "I was hoping to get your input on my thesis topic. I'm considering exploring the theme of forbidden love in classic literature, but I'm worried it might be too cliché." James leaned back in his chair, regarding her thoughtfully. Forbidden love is a timeless theme for a reason. It speaks to something fundamental in the human experience, the tension between desire and societal expectations. He paused, his eyes meeting hers. "What draws you to this topic?" Olivia swallowed hard, suddenly aware of the charged atmosphere in the small office. "I guess I'm fascinated by the idea of a love so powerful, it makes people willing to risk everything. It's both terrifying and exhilarating." "Indeed," James murmured, his gaze intense. "Have you ever experienced anything like that yourself?" The question hung in the air between them, loaded with unspoken meaning. Olivia's breath caught in her throat as she realized the conversation had veered into dangerous territory. No, she admitted softly. "Not yet." James nodded, a hint of something, regret? Longing? Flickering across his face. "Well, perhaps that's for the best. Such intense emotions can be overwhelming." They spent the next hour discussing potential angles for Olivia's thesis, but an undercurrent of tension thrummed beneath their academic conversation. When Olivia finally stood to leave, she found herself reluctant to go. "Thank you for your help, Professor Callahan," she said, lingering by the door. "James," he corrected gently. "Please call me James when we're not in class." Olivia nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. "James," she repeated, savoring the intimacy of using his first name. "I'll see you around campus." As the weeks passed, Olivia found more and more excuses to visit James's office. Their conversations ranged from literature to philosophy to their personal lives, and Olivia found herself opening up to him in a way she never had with anyone else. She learned that James was divorced, with a daughter only a few years younger than Olivia herself. He spoke of his failed marriage with a mixture of regret and resigned acceptance that tugged at Olivia's heart. For his part, James seemed to genuinely enjoy Olivia's company. He laughed more freely around her, his eyes crinkling with genuine mirth in a way that made her heart flutter. She began to notice the little things, the way he absently ran his fingers through his hair when deep in thought, the rich timbre of his voice when he read passages aloud, the strength in his hands as he gestured emphatically to make a point. It was during one of these office visits, As the late afternoon sun slanted through the window, that everything changed. Olivia had been passionately arguing her interpretation of a particularly complex passage in Wuthering Heights when she noticed James staring at her with an intensity that made her words trail off. "James?" she asked, suddenly breathless. "Is everything all right?" He stood abruptly, moving around the desk to stand before her. "Olivia," he said, his voice low and rough with emotion, "I think you should go." Confusion and hurt flashed across her face. "What? Why?" James closed his eyes, his hands clenching at his sides. "Because if you stay, I'm afraid I might do something we'll both regret." Olivia's heart pounded in her chest as she processed his words. She stood slowly, moving closer to him until she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "What if," she whispered, "I don't want to go?" James's eyes snapped open, searching her face. "Olivia," he breathed, "you don't know what you're asking. I'm old enough to be your father. I'm your professor. This can't happen." "I don't care," Olivia insisted, reaching out to place a hand on his chest. She could feel his heart racing beneath her palm. "I've never felt this way about anyone before. Please, James, don't push me away." For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, with a groan of surrender, James pulled Olivia into his arms and kissed her with a passion that left her breathless. His lips were firm and insistent against hers, his beard scratching deliciously against her skin as he deepened the kiss. Olivia melted into him, her arms winding around his neck as she kissed him back with equal fervor. When they finally broke apart, both were panting heavily. James rested his forehead against Olivia's, his eyes closed tightly. "We shouldn't have done that," he murmured, even as his arms tightened around her waist. "But we did," Olivia replied, her fingers playing with the hair at the nape of his neck. "And I don't regret it." James pulled back slightly, cupping her face in his hands. "Olivia, you have to understand. If anyone found out about this, it could ruin both of our lives. I could lose my job, my reputation. You could be expelled." The gravity of the situation settled over Olivia, but it did nothing to dampen the fire that had been ignited within her. "Then we'll be careful," she said firmly. "No one has to know." James studied her face for a long moment before sighing in resignation. "God help me, but I can't stay away from you," he admitted. "But we have to be smart about this. No one can suspect anything." Olivia nodded eagerly, willing to agree to anything as long as it meant she could be with James. They spent the next hour establishing ground rules for their clandestine relationship. No public displays of affection, no suspicious behavior on campus, and absolutely no hint of favoritism in class. As Olivia left James's office that evening, her lips still tingling from his kisses, she felt as though she was walking. She knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but the thrill of their forbidden romance made her feel more alive than she ever had before. The next few months passed in a whirlwind of stolen moments and secret rendezvous. Olivia and James were scrupulously careful on campus, maintaining a strictly professional relationship in public. But in private, their passion for each other burned white-hot. They met in out-of-the-way cafes in neighboring towns, took long drives into the countryside, and occasionally risked clandestine meetings at James's apartment when they were certain no one would see Olivia coming or going. Despite the excitement of their affair, the strain of keeping their relationship hidden began to take its toll. Olivia found herself constantly on edge, paranoid that someone would discover their secret. She withdrew from her friends, unable to confide in them about the most important part of her life. James, too, struggled with the weight of their deception, the guilt of their age difference and his position of authority over her nod at him, even as he found himself falling deeper in love with Olivia with each passing day. Their first major test came when James's daughter, Megan, paid an unexpected visit to campus. Olivia had known about Megan, of course, but seeing the 19-year-old in person drove home the reality of just how much older James was. Watching him interact with his daughter, Olivia felt a pang of guilt and uncertainty. Was she robbing Megan of a chance at a normal relationship with her father? Was she foolish to think that she and James could ever have a real future together? These doubts came to a head one evening when Olivia arrived at James's apartment to find him in a somber mood. He poured them both a glass of wine and led her to the couch, his face etched with worry. "What's wrong?" Olivia asked, her stomach clenching with anxiety. James took a deep breath before speaking. Megan asked me today if I was seeing anyone, he said quietly. She said she was worried about me being lonely and wanted me to be happy. Olivia's heart sank. What did you tell her? I lied, James admitted, his voice heavy with regret. I told her I was focused on my work and wasn't interested in dating right now. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Olivia had come to recognize as a sign of his distress. Olivia, I hate lying to my daughter, and it made me realize, what kind of future can we really have? I'm almost 50. You're just starting your life. How can I ask you to tie yourself to someone so much older? Someone with so much baggage? Tears welled up in Olivia's eyes as she listened to James' voice the very fears that had been plaguing her. Do you want to end this? She asked, her voice trembling. James looked at her, his blue eyes filled with a mixture of love and sorrow. I think maybe we should, he said softly. For both our sakes. Olivia felt as though the ground had dropped out from beneath her. She stood abruptly, needing to put some distance between them. So that's it? She asked, anger and hurt coloring her voice. You're just going to give up on us? On everything we've shared? James stood as well, reaching for her, but Olivia stepped back. Olivia, please try to understand. I'm trying to do what's best for you. You deserve someone who can give you a normal life. Someone you don't have to hide or make sacrifices for. Don't I get a say in what's best for me? Olivia demanded, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. I love you, James. I don't care about the age difference or what anyone else thinks. I want to be with you. James's resolve visibly wavered at her impassioned declaration. He moved closer, cupping her face in his hands and wiping away her tears with his thumbs. I love you too, he whispered. More than I ever thought possible. But love isn't always enough, Olivia. The world isn't kind to relationships like ours. Olivia leaned into his touch, her anger giving way to desperation. Then we'll face it together, she pleaded. We knew this wouldn't be easy when we started, but what we have is worth fighting for. Please, James, don't give up on us. For a long moment, James simply held her, his forehead resting against hers as they both trembled with the weight of their emotions. Finally, he pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. Okay, he said softly. Okay, we'll try to make this work. But we need to be honest with ourselves about the challenges ahead. Can you promise me that if it ever becomes too much, if you ever feel like you're sacrificing too much of yourself for this relationship, you'll tell me? Olivia nodded, relief washing over her. I promise, she said. As long as you promise the same. James sealed their agreement with a tender kiss, pouring all of his love and commitment into the gesture. As they held each other close, both knew that the road ahead would be far from easy. But in that moment, wrapped in each other's arms, they felt strong enough to face whatever obstacles lay ahead. The next few months brought both joy and hardship as Olivia and James navigated the complexities of their relationship. They had honest, often painful conversations about their fears and insecurities. James worried that he was holding Olivia back from experiencing life as a young woman, while Olivia sometimes felt insecure about James's greater life experience and accomplishments. But for every moment of doubt, there were countless moments of deep connection and happiness. They discovered a shared passion for obscure poetry, spending hours reading to each other and discussing the nuances of each verse. James introduced Olivia to the joys of cooking, teaching her family recipes passed down through generations. In turn, Olivia opened James's eyes to new music and art, bridging the gap between their generations. As Olivia's graduation approached, they faced a new set of challenges. With her no longer being a student, they could theoretically be more open about their relationship. But the prospect of going public was terrifying. They agonized over how to tell their families and friends, knowing that many would disapprove or struggle to understand. It was Olivia who finally made the decision. The night before her graduation ceremony, she invited James over to her small off-campus apartment. As they sat on her worn sofa, fingers intertwined, she took a deep breath and said, I want to introduce you to my parents tomorrow, as my partner. James's eyes widened in surprise. Are you sure? He asked, his voice a mixture of hope and apprehension. Once we do this, there's no going back. Are you ready for what that might mean? Olivia squeezed his hand, her gaze steady and determined. I'm sure, she said firmly. I love you, James. I'm proud of our relationship, and I'm tired of hiding. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. Tears glistened in James's eyes as he pulled Olivia close, kissing her with a tenderness that made her heart ache. I love you too, he murmured against her lips. More than I ever thought possible. If you're ready, then so am I. The next day, as Olivia walked across the stage to receive her diploma, she saw James sitting with her parents in the audience. Her heart raced, knowing what was to come. After the ceremony, she made her way through the crowd, James by her side, to where her parents waited with proud smiles. Mom, Dad, Olivia said, her voice only shaking slightly, I'd like you to meet someone very special to me. This is James, my boyfriend. The shock on her parents' faces was palpable. What followed was a tense, emotional conversation that stretched late into the night. There were tears, raised voices, and moments when Olivia feared she might have irreparably damaged her relationship with her family. But through it all, James remained a steady, supportive presence by her side. In the weeks and months that followed, Olivia and James faced the consequences of their decision to go public. Some friends drifted away, unable to understand or accept their relationship. Whispers and judgmental looks followed them when they went out together. James faced scrutiny from his colleagues, though he was ultimately cleared of any professional misconduct since their relationship had not begun until after he was no longer Olivia's professor. But for every person who disapproved, there were others who offered support and acceptance. Olivia's younger sister became an unexpected ally, defending their relationship fiercely to anyone who dared criticize it. James's daughter Megan, after an initial period of shock and adjustment, came to see how happy Olivia made her father and welcomed her into their family. As the dust settled and their new reality took shape, Olivia and James found themselves facing a different set of challenges. The initial shock of their relationship had worn off, but the day-to-day realities of navigating a significant age gap began to surface in unexpected ways. Olivia, fresh out of university, was eager to start her career in publishing. She threw herself into entry-level positions, working long hours and networking furiously to make a name for herself. James, well established in his academic career, found himself struggling to keep up with her energy and ambition. There were nights when Olivia wanted to go out and socialize with her coworkers, while James preferred a quiet evening at home. One particularly frustrating evening, after Olivia had canceled their dinner plans to attend a last-minute work event, James found himself sitting alone in his apartment, a cooling meal for two spread out on the table. As he picked at his food, a nagging voice in the back of his mind whispered doubts he'd been trying to ignore. When Olivia finally returned home, flushed with excitement from her networking success, she found James brooding in the dimly lit living room. James, she called softly, her smile fading as she sensed his mood. Is everything okay? He looked up at her, his blue eyes clouded with a mix of emotions. I'm not sure, he admitted. Olivia, I can't help but wonder. Are you happy with this life? With me? Olivia's brow furrowed in confusion as she sat beside him on the couch. Of course I am, she insisted, reaching for his hand. Why would you even ask that? James sighed, entwining his fingers with hers. It's just, you're so vibrant, so full of life and ambition. I see you throwing yourself into your career, making new friends, experiencing all these new things. And I worry that I'm holding you back, that you're missing out on the experiences you should be having at your age because you're tied to someone. Well, someone older. Olivia felt a pang in her chest at the vulnerability in James's voice. She shifted closer, cupping his face in her hands. James, listen to me, she said firmly. Yes, I'm excited about my career and the new experiences I'm having, but none of that means anything if I can't share it with you. You're not holding me back. You're my anchor, my support. I love coming home to you, sharing my successes and my failures. You challenge me intellectually in ways no one else ever has. James leaned into her touch, but the doubt didn't fully leave his eyes. I just worry that one day you'll wake up and regret choosing this life with me, that you'll resent me for the experiences you missed out on. Olivia considered his words carefully before responding. I can't promise that there won't be challenges, she said honestly, but I can promise you this. I choose you, James. Every day I actively choose this life with you. And I'll keep choosing you through whatever comes our way. She leaned in, kissing him softly. When she pulled back, she saw some of the tension had eased from James's features. But, she continued, I think we need to work on finding a balance. I don't want you to feel left behind or disconnected from my life. Maybe we can find more activities to do together. Things that bridge our interests and energy levels. James nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. I'd like that, he said. And I'm sorry for doubting us. It's just, sometimes I look at you and I'm in awe of how incredible you are. I want to make sure I'm worthy of you. Olivia's heart swelled with love for this complex, thoughtful man. You are, she assured him. More than worthy. Now how about we start right now? There's a new jazz club that opened downtown. It's supposed to have a great mix of classic and modern styles. Want to check it out with me? The surprise and delight that lit up James's face was answer enough. As they got ready to go out, both felt a renewed sense of commitment to their relationship. They knew there would be more hurdles to overcome, more moments of doubt and adjustment. But they also knew that what they had was worth fighting for. Over the next few years, Olivia and James worked hard to blend their lives and interests. They took cooking classes together, combining James's traditional techniques with Olivia's adventurous palate. They joined a book club that focused on contemporary literature, giving James fresh perspectives on modern writing, while Olivia benefited from his vast knowledge of literary history. There were still moments of friction. Olivia sometimes felt frustrated when James couldn't keep up with her fast-paced lifestyle, while James occasionally felt out of place among Olivia's younger friends. But they learned to communicate openly about these feelings, finding compromises and solutions together. As Olivia's career in publishing took off, she found herself traveling more frequently for work. The separations were hard on both of them, but they found ways to stay connected. James surprised Olivia by embracing technology, becoming adept at video calls and sending her thoughtful messages throughout the day. Olivia made sure to bring back books from every city she visited, building a shared library of memories in their home. It was during one of these work trips, as Olivia sat in a hotel room in New York, that she had an epiphany. She was video chatting with James, who was excitedly telling her about a breakthrough in his research. As she watched his eyes light up with passion, she realized that the ache in her chest wasn't just from missing him. It was from wanting to build a permanent life with him. When she returned home a week later, Olivia had made up her mind. She found James in their study, grading papers with reading glasses perched on his nose. The sight of him so perfectly at home in their shared space made her heart swell. James, she said softly, causing him to look up with a warm smile. I have something I want to ask you. He set aside his work, giving her his full attention. What is it, love? Olivia took a deep breath, suddenly nervous despite her certainty. She moved to kneel beside his chair, taking his hands in hers. James Callahan, she began, her voice filled with emotion. These past few years with you have been the happiest of my life. You challenge me, support me, and love me in ways I never thought possible. I know we've faced our share of obstacles, and I know there will be more to come. But I also know that I want to face every single one of them with you by my side. She paused, squeezing his hands. Will you marry me? James stared at her in stunned silence for a moment, his blue eyes wide with surprise. Then, to Olivia's alarm, they filled with tears. Oh, Olivia, he breathed, pulling her into his arms. Yes, 1,000 times yes. As they held each other, both laughing and crying, Olivia felt a sense of rightness settle over her. She knew that their path wouldn't always be easy. There would still be raised eyebrows and judgmental comments from some. They would continue to navigate the challenges that came with their age difference. But she also knew with absolute certainty that what they had built together was stronger than any obstacle they might face. In that moment, wrapped in James's arms with the promise of a future together stretching out before them, Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. From that first chance encounter in the university hallway to this life-changing moment in their shared home, every step had led them here. Their love story might not have been conventional, might not have followed the expected script, but it was theirs. Beautifully, perfectly, unexpectedly theirs. As James pulled back to kiss her, his lips conveying all the love and commitment he felt, Olivia knew that she wouldn't change a single moment of their journey. The challenges they had faced had only made their bond stronger. The disapproval they had weathered had only made them more certain of their love. And the future that lay ahead, with all its unknown twists and turns, was one she couldn't wait to explore hand in hand with the man who had captured her heart in the most unexpected of ways. Their story was far from over. In fact, in many ways it felt like it was just beginning. But as Olivia and James held each other close, basking in the glow of their engagement, they knew one thing for certain. Whatever life had in store for them, they would face it together, their love a beacon guiding them through even the stormiest of seas. And so, as the sun set on this chapter of their lives and the promise of a new dawn beckoned, Olivia and James looked to the future with hope, love, and the unshakable belief that in choosing each other, against all odds and expectations, they had found something truly extraordinary. Their forbidden romance had blossomed into a love story for the ages, proving that sometimes, the most beautiful relationships are the ones that defy convention and dare to write their own rules.